If you have multiple reptiles, you may be looking for ways that you can save money caring for those reptiles. Me personally, I have about 30 animals in my care because I run an education business. So I'm definitely always looking for ways to save money on reptile care. So let's talk about 10 ways you can save money on reptile care that you may not have thought of. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Zoe, but most people know me as ZA Reptiles. And this is Voodoo, my Calabar burrowing python, who ironically is probably one of my more expensive reptiles to keep. So how fitting for this saving money video. Now, if you've been subscribed to my channel for a couple of years now, you may remember that I have done a video like this before, talking about 10 money saving hacks. And I'm happy to tell you that these are going to be an additional 10 money saving hacks. So if you have not seen that video before, I will link it down below. So after this video, you can go and watch that one so you can get even more tips and tricks for saving money when caring for reptiles. And without further ado, let's jump into today's video on 10 more ways to save money caring for reptiles. Number 1 has to do with this black thing you're seeing over here. This is a grow tent. I get questions about this all the time. This is what I have Puka, my Chinese water dragon, in. Now the reason they are on this list, they come in all sorts of large sizes. I'm talking like 8x4 and bigger. Now to get an 8x4 reptile enclosure meant for reptiles, you're paying over $1,000. You can always build one yourself, but you're probably easily spending at least $500. Probably more though, by the time you count in everything you need to build it, whether you're in paint it, seal it, whatever it is you're doing and how you're doing it. Grow tents though, you can get an 8x4x6 grow tent for less than $200. You can get extremely large enclosures for like nothing. Now, word of caution with grow tents, you are going to have to tweak them a little bit to make them work for what you're trying to use them for. Things like covering up the silver walls on the inside, cutting the black doors and sewing on like a clear vinyl shower curtain if you want to be able to see inside, making sure you're getting proper ventilation, closing up any holes where your animal could escape out of. So when you order a grow tent, it's not ready to go right off the bat, but overall it is going to cost you significantly less than buying a reptile enclosure. And because of this, there is no excuse to have large reptiles in inappropriate sized enclosures. I'm just saying. The next tip is to make your own cleaners. Now this one was in the last video, however I only talked about vinegar and water. At the time that was the cleaner that I was mixing because I was also buying reptile geared cleaners from like pet stores and Amazon. But now I completely make my own cleaners like full out. So I still have reptile and water, but I also have a bleach mix. I have a chlorhexidine mix. Now I just recently did a video going through all of my cleaners and what I use them for and how I put them all together. So I'll put that video up here. I never know what side it's going to be on, so you guys can go check it out if you'd like. But that is going to save a lot of money because instead of buying one bottle of reptile cleaner for I don't even know how much, you can get a giant jug, mix it of something, whether it's vinegar, bleach, chlorhexidine, mix it with water because you're only using a little bit of that stuff. It's mostly water. Then you have a cleaner for a very long time. So in the long run, it saves you a ton of money. Starting to relax and peek her nose out. The next tip is to grow your own greens. If you have animals like tortoises, bearded dragons, uromastyx, iguanas, tegus, blue-tongued skinks, anything that's going to eat greens or some sort of vegetation, growing it yourself can save some money. Whether that's having a garden or having an arrow garden like I do. Mine's not set up right now. I have to get it set back up, but I'm kind of waiting until our basement renovation's done because I plan on having a whole little kitchen area down there for the animals. So I'm just gonna wait and set up my arrow garden down there. But we had an arrow garden at the nature center where I worked that I grew greens in for the turtles, and it was amazing. It worked so well. An arrow garden has reptile safe greens like collard greens, mustard greens, I think they had turnip greens, so it is amazing. This video is not sponsored by Arrow Garden, but Arrow Garden, if you want to sponsor me, hit me up. I talk about you all the time. The next money saving hack is to make sure you're using appropriate wattages when it comes to your lighting. So I talk about all the time using dimmers, how you can get plug-in dimmers from Home Depot, but it's really good if you can get a wattage where you don't need a dimmer, where it's just the appropriate heat. It's gonna help your lights live longer. In theory, make sure you're still getting good quality bulbs, and make sure you're checking your domes or your fixtures to see what wattage they are marked for, to make sure that you are not going over. So using appropriate wattages will definitely help lengthen the life of your bulb in theory, so that you can buy less of them and have to change them not quite as often. The next tip is to collect from nature. So sticks, driftwood, rocks. The majority of the sticks that I have in all of my enclosures were ones that I went outside and collected. Same with the rocks. For millipedes, I go out to the woods and I collect rotting wood to feed them. You can collect leaf litter from outside, moss. You just want to make sure that you clean the items. That's debatable. Some people will say, why are you cleaning it? Some people say you absolutely have to clean it. I err on the side of cleaning just because I don't want to bring in any random bugs. And you want to make sure that you're collecting from places that aren't spraying things like pesticides, because you don't want to put that into your reptile enclosures. But you could pay at least $20 for a stick, maybe $40 for a big one, or you can go out in nature and find it for free. $10 for a bag of leaf litter, or go outside, get some fresh air, vitamin D, and collect your own leaf litter. So that will save you money. The next tip, and this is one that I recently started doing, and that's to propagate your plants. If you're someone that wants to put live plants in your reptile enclosures, continuously buying live plants gets really expensive. I have spent an ungodly amount of money on live plants for my reptile enclosures, and I've pretty much had every single plant I've ever put in an enclosure die. There's been a couple plants that I've had in an enclosure for like a couple years, and I'm like, wow, I do really well with this plant, and then it just dies. So rather than continuing to spend money on plants for them, I have a ton of plants just for myself in my house. So I've started propagating them so that if I need a plant for an enclosure, I can pull from my stash of propagated plants. So when I set up my tricolored hognose enclosure, those were all plants that I was propagating. I recently moved my Pac-Man frog to a bigger setup and grabbed plants that I was propagating. So it's definitely helped that I, don't have to go to the store to buy plants. And then I also have to wait through like a quarantine period for the plants to make sure they're clean and they're good to go. I have a stash of plants already ready that I can pick from. And propagating plants like pothos, which is safe in a majority of reptile enclosures and pretty hardy, is so easy. So there's really no reason not to do it. The next tip is to buy used. Now, I was like the queen of buying used and thrifting reptile supplies when I first started out. I was always on Craigslist and Facebook looking for used aquariums, but you can usually find people getting rid of reptile supplies all the time. Like as I upgrade my enclosures, I'm selling them. We're talking like good 𝘎𝙪𝙾𝑠. I have a bunch of food dishes and water dishes I'm getting ready to sell. So I'm switching to like all dishwasher safe ceramic dishes for my water dishes and food dishes, as opposed to like reptile themed dishes, because I find them really hard to clean well. So if you have places like eBay, Mercari, Facebook, Craigslist, it can be really easy to find used reptile supplies, and it will save you a lot of money. The next tip, and people will debate this, and I see this debate all the time, but it's to feed Reptilinks or try Reptilinks. Not only is this going to help you give your animals more variety in their diet, and it's whole prey option, so really good, really healthy, but it can save you some money. It might not save you a lot of money, but it can save you some money, especially when it comes to things like your snakes. So just to give you guys an example, I did some math to compare the prices of Reptilinks to Rodent Pro. I don't buy my rodents from Rodent Pro, I do get them locally. So I did some math to compare the price of a link to a rodent from Rodent Pro, just to give you an idea of the cost difference. Now, for most of them, it was very, very close. Like we're talking 10 to 20 cents difference. But for some of them, there was quite a difference. So the first one I did was my corn snake Phoenix. Now, Phoenix is a very big corn snake who eats extra large mice. So if I got mice from Rodent Pro for Phoenix, it would be about $1.49 a mouse. Now, his links are about $1.62 a link. So we're only talking like 10 cents difference if I'm rounding. But Reptilinks are much more calorie dense, so you want to go longer in between feeding, because you can become very obese very easily if you feed your same schedule but use Reptilinks instead. So with Reptilinks, you actually want to feed less frequently. So in the long run, it's going to be about the same price, if not less. Now, to compare it to another snake where there's a bigger difference, my ball python Mojito loves Reptilinks. Now a rat from Rodent Pro for him would be about $2.49. A link for him would be $1.95. So we're talking about 50 cents difference there, on top of not feeding quite as frequently. And that 50 cents will definitely add up over time. I've heard about the savings from other keepers as well, like Savannah monitor keepers that feed Bayou Blend. Several of them have said that over time, they've actually saved a lot of money on food. So depending on what you're feeding, there definitely can be a pretty decent savings using Reptilinks. The next tip is to buy in bulk. Now in the last version of this video, I said buy your rodents in bulk. That still stands true. But there are other things you can buy in bulk as well. You can buy your bugs in bulk. So if I'm ordering bugs, I'm usually going to order quite a bit of bugs because it will last me longer, but also it saves me money in the long run. You can also buy things like cork bark in bulk. So my favorite thing to do is to go on to Pangea and buy the really big box of cork bark. It's like Christmas. You open it up, you get to see all the exciting stuff inside and see what pieces they sent you. You know, if you have a lot of crested geckos, buying a big bag of Pangea versus a little bag of Pangea. So there's a lot of things in the reptile world that you can buy in bulk or buy in bigger amounts, and I would definitely recommend doing that because it will save you money in the long run. Now the last money saving tip I have is to buy your domes, your lamps, your fixtures from hardware stores instead of from reptile stores. Now just to give you an example of the difference in price, I went online and found a Zilla lamp fixture rated for 150 watts for $30. Now if you go to Home Depot, they have a fixture rated for 300 watts. That's double the Zilla one for $17, about half the price of a reptile one. So needless to say, all of my light fixtures come from Home Depot. Now there's some fixtures that you can't get at Home Depot. You can't get those double domes. You can't get T5 UVB strip fixtures. But if you're just looking for a generic dome for your heat bulb, Home Depot, Lowe's, hardware stores are going to be your friend. Alright, so those are the 10 additional money saving hacks for reptile keepers. Don't forget to check out the previous video that I did a couple years ago if you missed that one for 10 more tips and tricks. And if you have more that I didn't mention in this video, be sure to leave it in the comments below so we can help each other out and we can all save some money. Once again, like usual, thank you guys for watching and we'll see you for the next video. Bye!